What's going on, y'all? Rob here, Square Wheels Auto. I just finished installing the RGB side mirror sequential lights. I got them from JR Lights. If you're interested, link down in the description. So I whipped up this quick video. Actually, it's not a quick video. It's like 30 minutes long, which is crazy. But in this video, I show you how I installed and wire them. I know a lot of you have them in hand and you're getting ready for that next show. Gatlinburg's coming up. So I'm going to walk you through this in painstaking detail. Now, I do have a little nerd out section where I tell you what each wire does and, the different places that you can wire them. If you want to nerd out with me, just go ahead and watch it end to end. But as always, there's chapters in the description. So if there's something that's relevant to you, if you're stuck at a certain point, just jump to that spot and you should be all set. Any comments, questions, concerns, please just let me know in the comments. As usual, I'm very active. And if you find this video helpful, please just go ahead, smash that like button. It helps out the channel. Thanks for checking me out. I'll see you on the other side. Peace. Usually what I like to do whenever I get a new product that I'm going to be installing in my car is open it up, lay everything out, hook it up to the bench and make sure that everything's working. And it helps me to understand how everything works together and what plugs into what and where I'm going to need to start positioning things in the car. So I'm going to walk you through that process right now. I've got these rear view mirror lights. These are the RGB ones, and I'm going to be using them to replace the pure white V2s that I've got in my Infiniti Q50. So first things first, what I'm going to do is open up the box and just kind of see what's in here. So I opted for the smoked version of the turn signals, and you see them here. And what do I see? So on each turn signal, it looks like a 3-wire JST connector. That looks fairly standard, and I'm guessing that's for the RGB from the controller. And it looks like we've got maybe a positive and a ground for some kind of lighting. So we'll figure out what that is. Obviously, one of these for each side. This is going to be the controller that comes with the unit. So my guess is that we'll be able to connect an app to this and control whatever colors and animations are supported by the app. And it looks like there's 2 signal wires on here, and it says yellow blue is turn signal, so I'm guessing that these are turn signals, and that would make the red and the black one here our power and our ground. I'm guessing these are connectors for whatever this black and white wire is coming off of each of these. So we'll figure that out. And it looks like we've got longer wires for each of the turn signals. So we'll figure out how we're gonna run them. But what I'm gonna do is hook this up to my bench and just make sure that everything works. And I can also use the bench to test all of the functions that would either work or not work when I've got it hooked up to the car. So let's go ahead and give the controller some power. Somewhere in the car, I'm gonna need to find a 12-volt input. And I'm gonna simulate that with my bench now. So my positive 12 volts goes to the red, and then my negative 12 volts goes to the black. And I'm gonna turn on my power supply here. Looks like I'm sending 13 volts, and this tells me that it's okay taking between 9 and 16 volts. So we're in good shape here. 13 volts is probably what I'm gonna get off of the alternator, so that is perfectly fine. Let's send it. Another benefit of doing this on the bench is I understand how much power it's going to be pulling from my car under different conditions. So right now, with just the controller hooked up, with no LEDs connected to the controller. This is pulling 0.01 amps, which is basically nothing. So I don't need to worry about this. It won't kill your battery, or it'll take a very, very, very long time to kill your battery. Okay, so from here, I'm not going to worry about turn signals yet. What I want to do is make sure that both of these are working, because at the end of the day, if there's any issues with the LEDs in the turn signal, this kit has to go back. So let's hook the JST up to the JST connector, and bingo, we've already got ignition on one, and bingo, we've already got ignition on two. So here we can see it's getting commands from the controller, which is perfect, and I don't really see any issues with any of the bulbs. Full transparency, I already did hook these up to my power supply. I ran them on 14 volts for about 24 hours straight. Didn't have any issues with these. So in terms of quality, at least for this set that I've got, I'm feeling pretty confident that I won't have any issues when I hook them up in my car. Okay, so let's test some of these other functions and see what happens. So here we know we've got the blue and yellow, which are our left and right turn signals. So let's lay it out that way. So this is passenger side, this is driver side. So let's see what goes here. The driver side turn signal is doing its sequential animation, so that looks like it's working really well. And just the way that I've got this hooked up, that means that driver side is yellow. And let's try it with the blue one and see what happens. Yep, that is working. So passenger side is blue. Okay, so we know that turn signals are working correctly. One thing I do want to test is hazards, and the way the car tells hazards to go is sending a positive 12 volt signal on both the left and the right turn signals. So let's see what happens when I do that. Awesome. And so when both of these are going now, this is another thing to keep an eye on. So controller plus both of the turn signals go in RGB mode is taking about 1/3 of an amp per hour. So if you've got a 50 amp battery, it's going to take you a couple days to burn out your battery just with this setup on. Obviously there's more stuff drawing from your battery, so just keep that in mind. But even with all of this stuff on, it's a relatively low amount of draw. Is there anything else that we want? Oh yeah, we did want to find out what these black and white wires were, so let's test that out. So these are still going in RGB mode, which is fine. Let's hook this up to the ground and this up to the power and see what it does. Oh, well, that's blinding. So I don't know if you saw that, but oh yeah, you can see it. So that's your puddle lighting. So what we're gonna have to do is figure out when the puddle lighting goes on and see which wire we can tap to connect these white wires on either side. So if we want puddle lighting, I probably won't use puddle lighting because I've got all kinds of underglow and puddle lighting set up already, so I won't connect these, but I'll try to figure out where to tap if you want to connect them. Cool. All right, so I think we've, oh yeah, let me just test the puddle lighting on this one just to make sure that it works. Power to power, ground to ground, and confirm. Puddle lighting works. Really nice, okay. This is pretty clean. I think what I'd like to do is do a test of the app. I wonder if I can, yeah, let's just do that. Let's kill this video. So to install the app, all you gotta do is scan the QR code and it should pop up a link to download Magic Lantern app. And there it is. Ooh, I'm crossing wires, look at me, maniac. So I'm installing the app and it is open now. Agree to the privacy policy. Yeah, go ahead and steal my identity. Allow while using the app. Allow to turn on Bluetooth. Turning on Bluetooth. Can you find the controller? It looks like it's connected. So now can I do? Okay. So it lets me set any color that I want to set, which is cool. Looks like there's some preset colors, which is fine. Looks like a tunable white, which is okay. I like as pure white as possible. And that looks like they're pure white and it's like dimmable, which is fine. Are there any, okay, so. Yo, 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 yo. So now that I've confirmed everything's working, I can start thinking about how this stuff is going to fit into the car.
Go look at yourself in the mirror, baby. Go look at yourself in the mirror.
I want car show. I want car show. I want car show.
What's that?
I want car show.
You want a car show?
Yeah.
Oh, mommy's watching it inside.
I watch it in playroom. I watch it in playroom.
Watch what in the playroom?
A car show in playroom.
You want to watch a car show in the playroom?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go see the car show in the playroom. Okay, I got everything set up in the car and this is how I set it up. So the controller I located right under the steering wheel. There's a lot of room under there where you can tuck the controller and all the wires. And it also gets you in close proximity to the fuse panel, which is right at the driver's side kick panel. Now coming out of the controller, you know those two long, thick JST wires. The longest one is going to stretch over the center console all the way over to the passenger side mirror, and then the other one is just going to go through your door to the driver's side mirror. And then the blue wire is going to follow the same path over to the passenger side window, and then the yellow wire is going to go through the door to the driver's side mirror. Okay, first things first, let's get some power to our controller. Now I recommend hooking the red wire from the controller up to your passenger fuse box and just using an add-a-fuse to deliver power to the controller whenever you want it to have power. Now, I'll put a link to the added fuses that I used in the description. They're pretty cheap and handy to have around if you're planning on hooking up accessories and peripherals to your car. Now, the fuse box in the Q50 is located in the kick panel on the driver's side, and I recommend removing all the plastic paneling so your wire can just live behind it and you'll have a clean install. There is going to be a fair amount of wiring. Now, here's a diagram of the fuse box itself, and it's really up to you where you tap, but I'm going to highlight two fuses that I think would make sense depending on how you want your mirrors to behave. Now, fuse 21 is not used by anything else in the vehicle, and it's switched on with the ignition. So if you want your mirrors to turn on only when your car is running, this is the fuse that you want to apply the added fuse to. Now, when you start your car, when these mirrors initially get power, they do a little kind of preset animation, and then they go to whatever color or animation setting you left it on last. The only downside of this is your sequential mirror lights won't work if the car is off. So if you have your car off and let's say you want to turn on your hazards in an emergency, then the sequential mirrors won't work if you tap this one. And if you do like meets and shows where you've got your lighting running, you'd have to have your car in ignition mode to have the sequential mirrors running. So just keep that in mind. Now, the other option is fuse number 16. Now, this fuse gets a constant 12-volt signal, which means it's always on. So if you tap this one, there is a slight risk of drawing on your battery. So your mirrors will be on consistently. You'll have to manually turn them off in the app, but then you'll have the benefit of, your hazard lights working if your car is off, and also being able to do like show modes and that kind of stuff if you're into that. So up to you, pick whichever fuse you want, but either way, you're going to run your red wire to this whatever fuse you choose, and that'll give you power. So we're already halfway through powering the controller because we've delivered power to it. All we need to do is find a solid ground on the vehicle. Now, it just so happens that there is a grounding screw literally right below the fuse box that we just tapped power. So all you'll need to do is run that black wire straight to that grounding screw and make sure that it's got a solid connection to it. Now, technically, you can run the red and the black wires directly to where I showed you. Just make sure you're connecting them securely. Now, on my install, I did add some extra stuff in here because I am planning on hardwiring some additional accessories through the same spots in the fuse box. I've got a dash cam and my carbon fiber steering wheel that I want to supply power to, and I want a clean install. So what I did was use some splicing quick wire connectors to essentially split the ground and split that 12-volt tap in the fuse box. So when it's time to install those additional accessories, I can just plug the red and the black wires into the quick wiring connector, and I'm ready to go. I will link these actual quick splicing wire connectors in the description also if you're interested in picking them up. Super handy, and I also use them for the turn signals in this install too. Okay, now that we've got power to the controller, all we got to do is install the turn signals in the mirrors and then run the wires back to the controller. Easy, right? Not quite. So to do this install, you're going to have to take the interior panels off of your front doors. And it sounds scary, but it's not the end of the world. So the interior panels on the doors are just held on by a 10mm bolt and a Phillips head screw in the door handle. Once you remove those, then all you need to do is just pull on the outer edge of the interior door panel, and it's just held in by plastic push pins basically, and you'll hear them pop out. It's a little scary the first time around, but just give it a little pressure and the interior panel will pull off of the door. Now if you want, you can remove all of the handle connectors and all of the wiring harnesses that connect it to the door. I didn't for this install, it wasn't necessary, but if you want more room to maneuver around, you can remove everything. Just remember to plug everything back when you're done. Now on the outside of the car, we're going to need to remove the caps off the mirrors to get to the screws that are going to free the turn signals that we've already got installed. Now to just protect the finish on my car, I put some painting tape right around the edge of the mirror between the plastic or carbon fiber cap, whichever caps you got on your mirrors, and the actual enclosure for the mirror itself. I'm going to be using a screwdriver and a pry tool to pop the cap off, and I want to make sure that I'm not scratching anything. So I just used a strip of tape right along this edge here. Now, there's a pro tip here. If you get a heat gun or a hair dryer and warm up the outside of the plastic cap, it'll actually warm up the tabs on the inside and prevent them from breaking when you're prying around the edge of the cap. So that's what I did. I have it running on a low heat, and I just did it for a good 3 to 5 minutes. Just kind of waving back and forth, making sure not to stay in one spot too long because I don't want to mess up the paint or melt anything. But just warm up the tabs inside, and once it's good and warm, just do a little touch test. Once it's good and warm, then you can go on in and start prying around the outside. At this point, I found it helpful to have a flathead screwdriver and a pry tool. What you can see me doing here is just sticking the flathead screwdriver in behind the plastic cap just enough to pop it out just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is use the pry tool and just kind of break the seal between these two pieces of plastic, and you will hear it audibly pop. It is a little scary the first time, but that's how you know that those tabs are coming loose, and you'll be pulling the cap off. So once you get the first tab off, you just keep moving around the mirror as each of the tab keeps popping open. You'll hear them click, and eventually your cap will pop off. Once you remove the plastic cap, you're going to see 2 of the 3 screws that you're going to need to remove in order to free the turn signal. Now that 3rd screw is actually hidden underneath the turn signal. There's a little plastic cap, and you can pull that down to get access to the 3rd screw. With all 3 screws removed, you can start pulling out the existing turn signal and disconnecting all the wire that's holding it into place. Okay, if we look at the diagram on the driver's side, there's going to be at least 2 wires that we're going to want to route from the mirror back into the controller. And those 2 wires are the JST connector and the yellow turn signal wire. They're going to both have to connect back to the controller. Off of the turn signal, there's also that black and white wire that you're going to want to route through to the inside of your driver's side door to tap in for your puddle lighting. Now you probably noticed that I already had aftermarket turn signals installed before this project started, and I honestly don't remember how I routed those wires through originally. But I did find Zillaful Boost's video on YouTube. He's got an awesome video and an awesome channel that shows you exactly how to route those wires through. So I suggest you go take a look at that, follow his steps exactly, and that'll show you how to route these 3 wires through to inside your door and inside the vehicle for your controller. While you're over there, give him a like and subscribe. He's got a great channel. Now, if you already have aftermarket turn signals like I do, and you're just upgrading to the RGB, what you can do is use the wiring that's already in there, tape those 3 wires to the existing wiring, and just pull it through. That's exactly what I did. That's what you can see here. And that gave me the exact same result where I was able to get all the 3 wires into the vehicle and connected to the controller. Now, at this point, you've already removed the OEM turn signal, but the connector is still going to be in your mirror. And that connector is still going to get a little signal each time you turn on your turn signals. What you're going to want to do is tap into that signal wire, and it's the red wire on that connector, and connect that yellow wire to that wire tap and send that through to the controller. That's going to tell the controller whenever your car is turning on the driver's side turn signal, and it's going to tell it to do something. What I did was just use a little wire tap, and then what you're going to do is tap the red wire on the turn signal thing right here, and you should be good. Once that's done, just tuck it in securely so it's not getting in the way of anything, and you're ready to move on. So the puddle lighting is actually really simple. You can plug that white wire into any 12 volt source and the puddle lighting will turn on. So I've seen guys do this a couple different ways. Some people have done it to a switched source where, it's always on as long as the car's on and the puddle lighting will be on while you're driving. I've seen some other people do it with where it's on a switch and the puddle lighting only turns on when you flip that switch on. What I'm going to show you is the original intended purpose of puddle lighting. It turns on when you unlock the car and shows you that you're not going to step in any puddles when you're getting in your car. Now I didn't hook mine up this way, but I tested with a multimeter and I tested with the turn signals before I installed them, and this works on mine. Here's how I did it. So on the inside of the door, there's going to be a little plug-in harness that you can just remove. There's a little tab on the bottom, you can just pull it out, but it has 8 positions on it. You want to plug the white wire from the puddle lights into position 2, and then the black wire from the puddle lights into position 3. Now don't pay attention to the wire colors because I don't know why, but Nissan has changed the wire colors. I've seen so many different combinations, but if you stick to the positions, this should work for you. Now with everything done on the driver's side door, you can start securing everything so you can put the interior panel back on. What I did was tape all the wires together onto the actual metal door frame and just kind of had all the wires bundled together where they could head out towards the vehicle. Now after this video, I've seen a couple guys actually route the wiring inside the door and use the factory grommets to pass the wires through. I didn't do that. I just taped all the wires together and I kind of ran them across directly into the vehicle under the weather stripping. Now with all the wiring in the vehicle, it's still not clean, but I was able to connect everything and just test the functions on this mirror. So I could see that RGB worked, I could switch all the animation, and I could test the turn signals also to make sure that they were working. Once I was confident about all my wiring and connections, I was able to just seal things back up and put the plastic cap back on the mirror, so the driver's side is done. Now on the passenger side, it's going to be the exact same process. So you need to run that longer JST wire all the way over to the passenger side mirror, and then the same thing with the turn signal wire, and then the puddle lighting is going to go to the door in the passenger side door. Now those 2 wires, I just ran underneath the center console, and that sounds a lot scarier than it actually is. So the center console actually disassembles just by pulling up on these little leather trim pieces. They're just held on by plastic pins, and once you lift them up, you should be able to route those 2 wires underneath the plastic trim and then pull them through on the other side. I found it helpful to remove the cup holder just so I could see what was going on either side of things. Again, none of this stuff is difficult. It's just, little plastic pieces that you have to put a little pressure on and they'll pop right up. Now once you routed all the wire through the center console, you can actually tuck it up underneath the glove compartment and then route it through to the passenger side door where you can, get it through the mirror just like you did on the driver's side. And that's it, y'all. Once you've completed the wiring on the passenger side, all you really need to do is tuck up your wiring, tuck the controller underneath the steering wheel, tape anything down so it's not flying around when you're driving, and then put your trim back together, and you should be all set. I hope you found this helpful. If there was anything that I missed or anything I didn't cover clearly enough, just let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get you an answer. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. I got more coming. Peace.